Are you a business owner looking for real advice and input? You're in the right place. From concept to launch to growth, funding, and beyond. Welcome to Startup Hustle with your hosts. One once sold a business for $150 million. The other, the author of $1 Million Bedroom. Here are your hosts of Startup Hustle, Matt DeCoursey and Matt Watson.
1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1. 'Cause no one can do it like we do it, like we do it, like we do it.
And we're back. Another episode of Startup Hustle. Matt DeCoursey here with Megan Day, who will be sitting in for Matt Watson today. Megan, how are you?
I'm amazing.
How you really are,
Aw.
and I'm amazing too. And I'm going to tell everyone why. But before I do that, I'm going to get a couple things out of the way. Today's episode of Startup Hustle is brought to you by Fullscale.io. If you want to check us out on YouTube, Startup Hustle has a YouTube channel. You can also go to Instagram and check us out at Startup Hustle Podcast. So now that that's out of the way, we can get down to the real business of today, which is a subject that makes me go, it's barbecue. Megan, you are the co-owner and pitmaster of Burnt Finger BBQ. Is this true?
That is correct.
Okay.
Proudly.
It is true, because
is
I'm looking
true.
at barbecue right here, and
Yeah.
we're going to talk about that in a
Smelling
minute.
it.
Yeah. So, I love it when you're interactive. So head on out to the internets and go to burntfingerbbq.com, and that's BURNT, fingerbbq.com. Can also find them on the gram with the same handle.
Perfect.
So
That's
first
where we
off, you
are.
have brought me some barbecue,
I
and
did.
that makes you my favorite person
Well,
here
I
in the
strive.
studio right now.
I
Yeah,
strive for that.
Yeah.
Barbecue, you smell it, you eat it. You can't talk about it
yeah, we can.
without eating it.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Right?
Yeah,
I mean, this is my labor and love, and I talk with my food as much as with, the interview itself. So,
So by the time this comes out, it will be on about episode 220-ish.
Wow.
And that said, somehow in Kansas City, where the people in Kansas City, for all of the listeners around the world and people that are not in Kansas City, here in KC, we very much consider Kansas City to be the barbecue capital of the world.
yes.
And I think other cities try to take that crown, but we take this shit pretty seriously
We do.
here. And what's a stat that validates that? Pound for pound, buck for buck, Kansas City has more barbecue restaurants per capita than any other place around.
They do.
Yeah. But a lot of people take barbecue seriously, and it's something that's different in different regions, and we'll talk about that. And we'll talk about what you do. And what's cool is you have a scalable barbecue model. So anyway,
Bingo.
let's talk about you. So tell us about Burnt Finger BBQ, and give us some backstory here.
Yeah. So we have a crazy story. I'll try to Reader's Digest it as much as possible. But my husband is Jason Day. He was the original pitmaster for Burnt Finger BBQ. He and a couple of buddies got together in Kansas City. If you think you've got good barbecue, you go compete, right?
Mhm.
You want to see if you really are. And so that started that way, and we realized really quickly we won. And it was going to be an expensive hobby.
You won what?
So awards. So we would go do barbecue contests. And so just for instance, the second contest we ever did was the American Royal, which is the World Championships of barbecue, and took 5th in brisket and 38th out of over 500 teams. So we knew we were good. And it was going to be expensive hobby. And so the guys decided they were going to start just a quick little blog and see if they could get some, referral funding and just try to build some relationships with sponsors and do that in the off season. And he ended up creating a recipe that he published on a blog that went viral. And this was 2008, little ditty called The Bacon Explosion, which was the bacon wrapped, bacon stuffed barbecue sausage. And it took off like crazy. Huge story came out in the New York Times, and that really set off a chance for him to write a cookbook and to compete some more and get sponsors, and all kinds of swag came in the mail, and we were set. All of a sudden we had a business, and people wanted a sauce, and they wanted a seasoning, and they wanted the bacon explosion, not just the recipe, but they wanted to eat this thing. And so,
Well, I need to ask, is
Yeah.
this sausage that's in front of me the bacon explosion?
no, but I'll tell you what. Okay, are you ready for this?
Hang on, this is my head beating against the mic. Oh, there
have
it is.
one.
Yes. Oh, wow. You didn't just bring it. You brought the whole thing.
This is the deal. I chose not to heat this up and give it to you today simply because Matt, I want you to be the hero of your next party.
I'll tell you what, you're going to make me the hero of my night when I open this
So-
thing up. So first off,
Yeah.
well, hold this up just a little bit so those on YouTube can see. All right, this is like a small loaf of bread. It looks like, I would say, like a bun that you would get a Subway sandwich on. It's frozen, but it's ready, and it says Bacon Explosion on it.
Yeah.
Bacon wrapped and filled sausage barbecue log.
Yes, it sits heavy. Let's just
I'm sorry
say
for
that.
doubting you.
So I got
I
you.
am. I'm sorry for doubting you. I was
got
beating
you.
my head. Yeah, I was.
got you.
I was
What a
gonna cry.
surprise. Surprise and delight. Isn't that
Yeah,
what we're all
it is.
about?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
just.
So
nothing can go wrong for the rest of my day.
I could give you just a taste, or like I said, you can let this be the hero of your next party. It is a showpiece. It is love enveloped in a bacon weave over under style basket weave. You got it? So this is fully cooked, smoked, ready to go. You just have to thaw it out, put it in your oven, or put it on your grill, and then slice it up. You can put it on biscuits, on buns. You can chop it up and put it in your spaghetti. Whatever you want to add a beautiful smoky bacon-filled love.
So that was it. That was the
it.
thing that
It's
really,
just-
like, that
People
was.
went crazy.
This was the thing that said we've arrived.
We've arrived.
Okay, cool.
And so
By the way, it says 2.59 pounds on
Yes,
it. Like, this
it
is
is.
no joke.
it starts at almost 3 and then renders. And so what's really cool about it is the bacon renders into the sausage, that renders into the bacon, that renders into the sausage, and then deposits in the bottom of the smoker, right? So what you're left with is a very silky, rich, supple meat that people really went crazy for. And this was, we're talking 2008. This was a long time ago. The article came out in the New York Times in 2009. We had a business by May.
You say New York Times?
Yes.
Okay.
New York Times.
A couple people
Yeah,
read
a couple
that.
people read that, but that set us off on. Now we're on the Today Show, and now we're doing interviews with, I mean, you name them, Fox and Friends, CNN. Everybody wanted to know about this crazy concoction coming out of Kansas City, and so we arrived. And my husband and the barbecue team continued to do very well. We won lots of awards. Things were really popping, but the reality was we both had careers. And so it was really working in the background as you can imagine, when you're dealing with something like a perishable product, you work with vendors and partners to make that happen. I don't touch it. I'm not making these, but they're making them to our specifications, and they're shipping them on dry ice and coolers, and that's their logistical understanding. That's not ours. We are the creators. We are the visionaries and the culinary palate to create these products. So that's how we got started, and that just kind of ran in the background for a really, really long time. And
So you ran off a whole list of things.
Yeah.
You said New York Times, Today Show, go ahead, take a minute,
CNN.
like CNN, like where were you? Because by the way, these are all things that this is validation. This
Yeah.
is street cred.
Yeah,
I mean, because
complete.
these are national shows.
Yeah.
And I've been on like local TV and like whatever, and
Yeah.
like you wonder, you're like, is anyone actually watching this?
So
But on those shows,
Yeah.
I mean, this is the syndication.
it is.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, and this is one of the things that I will tell anybody who's seeking to get validation. Do those shows that are local, because they're really looking for content.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay.
I was actually talking about that last night with one of our clients at Full Scale, and I said, they said, well, how? Because we get articles about
Yeah.
Startup Hustle and Full Scale or Matt and I fairly regularly, and they're asking, well, how do you get this? I was like, you just need to tell them what you're doing.
Be
Like
findable.
all of these content providers are doing nothing other than, they don't want to do the hard work.
Nope.
But you just have to like send a couple emails. You're like, hey, this is what we've been up to.
Yeah.
If you consider it newsworthy, let me know. And,
Yeah.
and then they usually, they usually reply and set up an interview or
Exactly.
send someone by to take a picture or
Yep.
do something like that. And then you get an article about you.
Yeah, and the thing,
And it's free press.
and it's free. But
Mhm.
I think what's even more important than getting that free press is then when you put it out there, so that when someone does start seeking you out, there is a treasure trove of
Yeah.
how you are on camera,
Yep.
how you are in photographs, how you deliver your content. Now you have somebody that is looking like maybe they want to do something with you, and they're like, oh yeah, done and done. This guy's good, or this
Yeah.
company is legit. And so one of the things, a tip that I would always give somebody, and I've had numerous outlets who have told me that they appreciate it, if I send them information, I have at the bottom of my email, at least the very first email that I send out, a news alert, like just in my signature. And then I pop off 3 or 4 things that are happening in our business right now that are legitimate with a link that just gives that person who reads it, they can go, oh, look, she was just in this magazine or on this show or this just happened. And it kind of does that validation so they don't have to go do research on you. It's in the signature of your email.
Yeah, and I actually do that in my own signature. I have a link to Full Scale. I have a link to our podcast. I have a link to book an appointment with me. And
but are you bragging?
Well, yes and no. So some of it, and so there's actually a cool thing we use, you know, so you don't have to put like 90 links in. There's a thing called Linktree. That's
Okay,
it's $8 a month.
Okay.
And what it is it's basically you can link to Linktree, and when you click it, it'll however you want to customize it. So you could have all these little buttons. It's just kind of like a little mobile friendly, easy to set up kind of directory. And we use it for Instagram or whenever we're promoting the podcast, because with the podcast, people listen to it on Apple, they listen on Google, Spotify, and whatever. So we don't want to just drive them to what they're not going to use. So there are tools like that are kind of clever. And the thing is no one's going to click all of them, but if they see 10 of them that are news articles, read about us in the New York Times, see us on CNN, sometimes that's enough.
That's enough.
Yeah.
Amen.
But I think one thing that is key here, and I see a lot of people get pressed, and then I'm like, why aren't you framing this up in the context of what you're doing? Like, you know, and don't put it at the bottom of your website that after like a full minute of scrolling, I finally like see as mentioned on. Like these validating things are important, and you know, like you said, and take them where you can get them. Yeah, you got to kind of climb the ladder on that stuff.
You do.
Yeah.
But the thing is once success begets success. And so I'll give you a great example. Before I do that though,
well, hang on. Before you do that, we're gonna try some barbecue because I don't want to. All right, and
so this brisket that
I'm going brisket first.
Yes.
Here. So I'm gonna first try it real quick, and I'm gonna go no sauce.
Okay.
And then we'll try it with the sauce. So. That's really good.
Thank you.
It has there's a hint. I don't want to say it's smoky. It's like some different tasting, but I love brisket. Yeah,
brisket. So this, probably what you're picking up on is a richness of a Wagyu beef.
That might be it. Yeah, I tasted something, and now I'm going to put some sauce on it.
Yep. So this is our barbecue sauce. This is our smoky Kansas City.
Yummy.
Thank you.
I like it because, so here's the thing with barbecue, and this is one of the things I want to talk about. So I used to live in North Carolina, and I remember when I first moved there.
Super vinegar.
I went to a barbecue stand, and I asked for sauce, and they handed me like a bottle of vinegar, and I was like, what the fuck is this? Yeah. And they're like, that's sauce.
No.
And I'd never seen that before in my life. But barbecue is regional, and people have different flavors and different tastes to it. And here in Kansas City, our barbecue sauce is very, it has texture and thickness. It's like, I don't want to say ketchup, but it is kind of the consistency of ketchup. But
ketchup is usually one of the base flavors or, liquids.
Yeah, so this sauce is a neutral.
Yeah.
It's not super spicy, and it's not super smoky. It's not filled with hickory. It's
Yep.
I would say, and let's call this out, because now, can you buy this at Burnt Finger BBQ?
You can buy it at Burnt Finger BBQ. You can buy it at Made in Kansas City, any Ace hardware store, Bass Pro, Cabela's. We're regional and national.
Cool.
Yeah.
So this is a barbecue sauce for someone that wants to be in the middle.
Amen.
You don't want it super spicy. You don't want, it's just that. It's like BBQ neutral.
It is.
And it would also
quality.
be good. It would be, it was great. And by the way, I wouldn't say that if I thought it was terrible.
Thank you.
Now, when you look at barbecue, you mentioned 2008 when your Bacon Explosion came out.
Yeah.
I'm 44 years old. I've seen barbecue. I grew up in Kansas City.
Yeah.
And I grew up with a dad who would always bring barbecue home, and we'd go to Gates Barbecue.
Right.
And Arthur Bryant's, which here in Kansas City are like the original gangsters of
OG,
barbecue.
baby.
Yeah, and they're good. And I just ate at Gates the other day, but their barbecue's different. It is still old school. And so at what point did I want to say like artisan barbecue kind of took over? And I feel like it was probably like 10 years ago.
Yeah. So craftsman, artisan, not commercial. You're a lot of influence from competition people who were in there, who were trying to really knock out the flavors. Remember, competition barbecue is one bite. So when a judge tries it,
you just get one bite?
Punch it. Well, it's all they're going to eat. They're going to sit there and eat so much barbecue.
That's a good point.
They're going to take a bite. So you got to pack so much flavor into that bite that I think a lot of influence in some of this craft barbecue has come out of the fact that it's not just a bunch of meat thrown on a rotisserie. They take the time to inject it. They take the time to let it, marinades, or they may wrap it in tinfoil and finish it off to be a perfect texture. Whereas some of the old school pit guys, they're physically throwing meat on, charring it, and pulling it off, which is a fantastic option.
And that's like large scale.
Exactly.
If you go to Arthur Bryant's Barbecue, which is, like I said, old school.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna just give you a picture of a not nice restaurant.
Right.
Like, I mean, it's like
But
the
it's an
tables and
experience.
chairs are what you would get in a bowling alley snack bar.
Yeah.
And they're probably like 50 years old.
Yeah.
And there's literally guys back there pulling brisket out with pitchforks.
Yes.
And that's like what you're talking about. And you go and you order a sandwich. They slice a shit pile of meat
Yep.
onto
Just
a
shave,
tray.
shave.
And they throw like 5 pieces
Yeah.
of bread, like white bread on there.
Yeah.
And that's your sandwich. Like, you're gonna make it yourself.
Yeah.
Like, it is
You
not
finish
what.
it up.
Yeah, but it's great. But
Right.
it's great. Now their sauce is different.
Yes.
But I like it. But I've taken a lot of people to eat there over the years, and not everyone does like it.
Yeah.
So your sauce is, like I said, back in that kind of neutral zone.
And that's
Okay.
on purpose.
Right. No, I get it. And once again, go to Burnt, and that's BURNT Finger BBQ.com. I
You
did
got it.
just check out you got a lot of followers on Instagram.
Well, thank you.
And congratulations on all the distribution channels that you've found. I think it's interesting because, running a restaurant's really expensive.
Uh-huh.
And it requires, you got to go there every day.
Ooh, and babysit lots of
Get a
fabulous.
deal with it. And
I mean, you're talking inventory, you're
Yeah.
talking people. You're not just,
Oh.
you're babysitting a lot of moving parts that sometimes you really don't have control over.
and theoretically, there's a lot of competition here in Kansas City. And
Bingo.
and that's the thing. And I'm not trying to keep name dropping your competitors, but
No,
there's
do it.
there's like 3 barbecue restaurants, literally retail shops
Yes,
in Kansas City that kind of run the game here
They
in a
do.
lot of ways.
they do.
And one of them's Jack Stack
Sure.
for local.
Love them.
I love their food too,
Love
and
them.
and that's where I like to go the
Yeah.
most. And that's kind of where I got introduced to a little. I don't want to say artisan though.
It's
It's different.
I call it tablecloth barbecue.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like you actually. I don't know. It's not like you're
You
just
don't.
you're not just getting a sandwich in a paper
Right.
bag and running out the door. And then there's probably more like 4
Yeah.
restaurants, and Joe's
Yep.
is really well known. Once known as
Consistent.
Oklahoma Joe's, that although they didn't have anyone from Oklahoma or a restaurant there, I believe. but,
Well, there was some, but
Yeah.
yeah, there's a connection to Oklahoma, absolutely. Yeah.
you want to talk about ballsy moves?
Yeah.
Literally changing their name
Yes.
amidst a very popular name,
Yes.
but I gotta tip my cap to them for wrapping their arms around KC. They're like, hey, this is where we're
Yeah.
at. And that's the difference. Now that's where I first started to experience what I'll call like that.
Craftsman.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
a lot different.
Yes.
And I remember my mind was blown. I was like, oh my God, you're gonna put an onion ring
Yeah.
on a
And
barbecue sandwich? I'm like, and provolone, like you just changed my life.
Texture.
Yeah. So now with that's not something that you could easily ship.
They do though.
Well, I bet, but that's hard.
Yes, no, it's extremely hard. I mean, and
Right.
and we have a fantastic relationship with the Joe's folks. Jeff Staney. One of the things about barbecue in this world, we are all very much a family and help each other. And so just understanding the logistics and how long it took for them to get to the point of being able to ship that sandwich, kudos to them for
Right.
figuring it out.
Well, let's
So,
talk about
yeah.
that for a second, because you have this.
Yes.
You have no restaurant,
No.
and you're wrapping your arms around a scalable model.
Yes.
It's smart because the places that you mentioned having distribution through. Now, one of them you didn't even mention was Home Shopping Network.
Yes.
So do you
Yes.
actually go on the
Yeah.
show and you're like there and you're
Yeah.
like, and we're gonna slice some
Yes,
sausage?
I
and-
do. That's the whole part of the story. You tell your story. And so very, very fortunate. About 3.5, almost 4 years now, probably ago, I looked at my husband and I said, in order to change the outcome, we have to change our investment in this company. And what we're doing right now is letting it work in the background. So I'm going to quit my day job, which I was a direct, I had a huge role in philanthropy and had a great salary and all this, but we had a couple of young ones. And I knew I was never going to get that time back with them. And I felt like there was something more to our business that we just couldn't handle at 9 o'clock at night, right? Because that's what was happening, was we'd get home, get the kids finally to bed, and finally at 9 o'clock we'd start to work on the business.
And that's the worst part of your day.
It's hard. It's
Like, because you like
drained.
you mentioned, you worked all day.
Yeah.
You did time with the kids, and that's why I tell people that have part-time participants in their business or their own business, and forgive my language here, I refer to that as the butthole of your day.
It is.
Because it's like 9 o'clock to 11, maybe midnight, and like it's really, really easy to just not do it.
The kids' bedtime routine puts me to sleep,
Yeah.
right? And so then now I've got to go try to be on and try and figure out what it is we've got going on with the company. And so
You know what puts me to sleep a
what's
lot?
that?
Barbecue. Eating a lot of ribs.
Have you
Often known as the itis. It's the struggle is real. I had it the other
Meat
day.
sweats.
I literally, I ate a bunch of ribs after lunch, and then my wife was like, "What's up?" And I was like, "Oh, I got the itis."
I love it.
And
Barbecue.
that's an old Dave Chappelle skit.
Yes.
But yeah, the itis is a real thing. And yeah, I took a nap. There's
I
such
love
thing.
it.
Now
Well,
with barbecue
yeah.
too, I have a rule. You always have to have leftovers.
Yes.
So I go to order, and like I've had make comments like, "You having a party?" I'm like, "No."
No.
And I think they're just used to that.
I love
Okay,
it.
so now with your scalable model, you have a
Yes.
different approach because
Yes.
you've got a frozen bacon log right in front of me. Now, in a restaurant, you're perishable. You're serving that like now. Like
Right.
here they are right in front of you. Slice it up, get it out the door,
Yes.
which presents some challenges. So what are the challenges that you run into as opposed to an actual barbecue restaurant?
Well, there's a lot because we don't have a place to send people. So getting people to say, I'm going to go online, I'm going to find this, I'm going to trust this business, I'm going to put down a bunch of money, and I'm going to hope this thing shows up with the dry ice and a cooler. It's really being able to, again, do everything we can to build our brand up as reputable so that someone doesn't think twice about, is that really going to arrive, and am I going to be able to cook it? But from a logistics standpoint, there's dry ice. It's going across during the summertime. Did our partners put enough dry ice in it?
Yeah.
And if not, I got to pay for that, and I got to get another one shipped out to them, and I've got to build that damaged relationship and prove to them that that stunk, and I'm sorry that happened. We will try to make it up to you. And so, just not the beautiful part about it is we do batches of it and we put it in the freezer, and it can stay in the freezer for quite a while. The hope is that it doesn't have to stay there that long because we're churning through them as fast as possible. But the price of bacon, the price of pork, I may have a batch that is extremely reasonable and we make more margin on it, and then the next time we turn around, it's not as good of margin because the price of pork went up. Or there's always the fear that there could be something that happens to the pork industry in this particular item. When we do our chicken drumsticks for HSN, or we do a pulled pork in sauce, we do we're working on a pulled chicken. It's going to be those same types of problems. Is that we've got to make sure that we order enough, that it's ready to go, and that everybody's clicking on, this is going to a coast and it's going to pass through the hottest part of the country. Is there enough dry ice? I mean, those are just the realities.
Now, we did an episode with Chris Kovac, who runs a beef company.
Yeah.
Do you know Chris?
I know
Or
of
you
him.
met him. So
Yeah.
he came in, that episode's titled "Where's the Beef?"
Yeah.
But they ship steaks.
Yeah.
And the same obstacles to overcome. And then they raise them organically themselves. So that's also like maybe they have a little control over some of that, but then again, they can run out.
They can run out.
Really quickly.
Yeah.
Do you guys run out sometimes and you're just like, but that happens at my favorite barbecue restaurants I go into, like, we don't have any
we don't have
burn
any.
ends. I'm like, oh, I hate you.
Well, that's a hard question to answer honestly, because sometimes running out is good for business.
Yeah, and we can talk about that. I'm
Yeah.
gonna try. What's this sausage
so
stuff?
This is brand new, literally launched last week. It is our first commercial-based product. It is bacon sausage. Basically, it's a sweet barbecue sausage that is made with real chunks of bacon. So it is this in a consumer-friendly casing, if you will.
Okay, this is freaking awesome.
Thank you.
Now I'm gonna put some sauce on it
put
too.
some sauce on it. So our goal with this is to, at this point, I am hitting the ground and I'm talking to chefs and I'm working with culinary directors and food and beverage from a golf course all the way to a fine dining restaurant down to a bar and grill, because it is such a quality product. We have worked so hard to partner with the right people who use the great ingredients. We developed a seasoning specifically for this sausage so that the pork could shine and that the bacon, you could feel it, taste it, the texture would be the right size.
Yeah, it's good. And it's not overwhelming. Once
No.
again, like, I kind of like the neutrality of what I've tried so
Yeah.
far. Like,
Yeah.
sometimes, like, because, I mean, I can do spicy stuff, but
Yeah.
man, like, I'm a white dude from Kansas. Like, if you give me spicy stuff, like, I turn red and start
Yeah,
sweating.
hiccup.
Like, I mean, and
My husband hiccups.
I don't mind. Yeah, I don't mind it, but it's not always like what I want to
Yeah.
eat a lot of.
Well, and what this does is it gives us the versatility for the chef to say, I'm going to throw cheese on here, I'm going to put jalapenos on here, I'm going to do it up like peppers and onions. It really gives them the ability to char it or cut it out of the casing and make a biscuits and gravy with it for a
Yeah,
for that kind
I was gonna say this is
really.
as far as like what you would think of
Yeah.
sausage. That I mean, it's kielbasa-ish
Yes.
in texture,
Yeah.
but it's not like it's not like grossly oily or anything like that.
We don't
so.
want it is some of
yeah.
the highest quality. There's not fillers in it. It is really the real deal. And so the hope is that these restaurants will take it upon themselves to do some fun things with it. And so
Sure.
I'm working with them on ways to do that. This, I simply lit our smoker, smoked them off until they hit about 140, and then moved them over to the grill and finished them off to about 160, and just to give them that char on it. But like I said, you could do so many different things with it, and I'm really excited to listen to what our restaurant partners are doing with it. And that could be a bar or it could be a really fine dining restaurant, however, whoever wants it. This also then leaves us the ability in the future to say, hey, guess what? We just came out with a burnt finger barbecue jalapeno sausage with bacon or a cheese sausage with bacon. It gives us the platform to then create new products in a demanding category of the ooey gooey movement type of food or the spicy hot for those people who are craving that. But that this gives us that base for a restaurant.
So you have
do whatever they
there's
want.
And tell me if I'm right or wrong here, but when you have a lot of different distribution channels, like
Yeah.
you talk about Cabela's, Bass Pro Shop,
Yeah.
Some of these different Ace Hardware,
Yeah.
you don't get that buyer's info.
Yeah.
So
No.
you kind of lose
That's
the
not my
you lose
client.
that ability to tell them that you have a new thing.
Yeah.
So how are you able to, or what's your advice when it comes to, whether you're selling barbecue or you're selling pillows?
Yeah.
These are the same challenges, like, and basically not basically, exactly what Megan has done here is foregone the retail model to instead focus on sales channels.
Yeah.
And it requires a different approach,
Yeah.
but sales channels aren't as easy to get into as you'd want, and they're time consuming. So how do you build customer awareness and
Yeah.
changes in your product line through sales channels?
That's the struggle. I mean, really, that's the struggle
Is it?
because it's not my customer. HSN is not my customer. Ace is not my customer. But what I can control.
So is it a distributor that sells to them?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So in order for those now with HSN, we directly do sell to
Sure.
HSN, but we don't know who buys it. Like
Right, now with
I can
that
ask
too, that's
demographics.
also like a weird thing too, because you
Yeah.
might need they're not going to bring you on air unless you have enough to like run that running
Yes.
number that's like, you've now sold 4,900. No, it
Yeah.
never sold out of
Yes.
5,000, but you got to be ready for that.
Well, and what's really fascinating about HSN, and I feel extremely honored, they came to me and they said, "Do you want to create a line for us?"
There
So
you go.
that's huge.
Okay.
And we said, "Yeah."
Let me guess, they found you in New York Times
Yeah.
or CNN or somewhere
Exactly.
like that. Yeah.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Well, and so where I really the tipping and the jumping off point for our business was producers contacted me and asked if I would like to compete on Chopped, which is the Food Network show where you get a basket of ingredients that you don't know and you've only got 20 minutes to create a meal for these beautiful, talented judges.
So you've also been on the Food Network.
And I won.
Nice.
So I won
Congrats.
Chopped.
That's
Thank you,
fun.
being a Chopped champion. And at that point, it was like, okay, she's legit and
You should have
she's
led.
fun.
You should have led with that.
Oh, there's so many things though. And I think that's what someone told me the other day. They said, I don't think you have a company. You are a brand.
Well, congrats, because that's
So-
what you should be doing. Because
Yeah.
guess what? Like that, I talk about this a lot because for myself, I've put a lot of focus on this, and I started doing that 3 years ago when I
Yeah.
started publishing books.
Yeah.
And people are like, "Do you make a lot of money off the book?" I'm like, I'm never going to be able to
No.
put a tangible return on them. And sure, there's sales and stuff like that, but you have to, if you want to stand out, you have to make yourself an expert. You have
Yes.
to look like remarkably credible. Like if
Yeah.
you're a subject matter expert, you're not like, and I've never had an article, I've never written an article, I've never done anything like you talked about, And and by the way, congratulations on being
Thank you.
successful at that, because it's really difficult. And it takes a lot of tenacity. And you talked about like starting with the local media and stuff like that. You don't just become well known in a day. That's
No.
not how this shit works,
No.
people. Like you see folks and you're like, oh wow, that they came out of nowhere. No, they didn't. They were probably doing what, and I
Yeah.
say they, like no one was an overnight sensation.
We are a 10-year overnight success.
Yeah, no,
Do
right.
not
That's
kid
my
yourself.
point. It is not. There's really like no overnight success. Like all of a sudden, some people hit the radar and light
Right.
it up. But at the same time, like if you look back in their timeline, they were grinding it.
Yeah. And so a funny story on that, I was asked to be on the Today Show to do, it was the NFL kickoff, and that a couple of years ago. And I asked the food producer when we had a little bit of downtime, because Matt Lauer
Is
was
it
still
you
there.
that does this, or you and Jason?
Well, so that's the fun part. It's us. It is
Okay.
Jason and I. Competition. We are a competition duo. But when it comes to doing some of these kinds of things, I have now taken that step forward, and it's me. Every once in a while, we have an opportunity to do something together, but a female pitmaster is interesting.
Why not?
He looks like every other
Yeah.
white pitmaster. He just does.
That's
right?
probably like me, like a guy with a dad bod and a
Yes.
apron and a spatula.
And it's fantastic for what it is, but it's not a pop that they have a few seconds to get that
Yeah, sure.
viewer. And
Yeah.
so I've been able to get the credibility by being a Chop champion. And I asked that food producer, I said, how the heck did you find me? She said, I Googled Kansas City chef.
And by the way, ask people that
I do.
when they reach out. Like
Yes.
if you sell anything
Yes,
to people, ask them, how'd you hear about us?
I always do.
You'll always be surprised, but they're not. You need to know that stuff too.
It is. And so I asked her, and she said, well, and this is a huge tip, get your pens and pencils out, because take this down and remember this. She said, when I found your article, I looked you up, and there was a direct email and a direct phone number to you. I didn't have to fill out some comment page and wonder if the message ever got to you. Because guess what? If I can't talk to you and ask you directly, I move on to the next talent. I don't have time. And so she said, I found you, and then I talked to you. And I said, well, that's fantastic. And she said, thank you for making it easy for me.
That approach wouldn't work for me.
Yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't on some level.
Yeah.
And I say that, like, and I get where you're saying that,
Yeah.
but there's also times when that can be rough.
Well-
And you can put layers. And the reason I say that is because once we announced that Full Scale was going to invest millions of dollars
sure
into
you guys-
businesses, like, there a level of a layer needed to exist.
But I think you can still do that. If
Yeah.
she would have called and someone answered
Yeah, sure.
and said, this is fantastic, let me chat with Matt about it. It's the same thing.
We use booking links and stuff like that
Yeah.
where you can schedule a call. And, you know, the thing is like the idea that you can just call someone directly at any
Yeah.
moment is like, I mean, you can.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying I'm not accessible, but some of it's just also about like general sanity.
But I think you've hit that point. When I did that, we weren't at that point. So
Well, really what does it too is, my business partner, Matt Watson,
Yeah.
sold a company for $150 million bucks, and
That-
he's got a Wikipedia page. You probably do too.
we do.
Yeah,
we
there
do
you
have
go.
we have a Wikipedia page.
Yeah.
So we feel pretty special about that. But
But these things take time to accumulate, and it's funny because I know a lot of people in the music industry, and we always joke like what comes up when you just put your own name in Google, and we've determined that like the first level is when you get the little sidebar.
oh yeah.
Yeah, and so like I got that with some of the
Big time.
books, and you get some other stuff, and it's my buddies, the dude that I just wrote my last book with, Joel Cummins from Humphreys McGee, always messes with me. He's like, "Look, I've got this and this
Oh,
and
I
this," and
love
I'm
it.
like, "Dude, I'm just trying to
I
keep
gotta
up."
up my game. Well, and I think a lot of what we do,
And by the way, that's what you're trying to satisfy, because
Yeah.
people are going to Google you.
we will.
Yeah, so figure out and by the way, that didn't take it's like just a couple. It's a submission.
Yeah.
Google wants to see you send a picture of you with your ID in to prove that
Yeah.
that the info you're providing is actually you.
Yeah.
And then they kind of take it from there.
They do, and it's scary but fabulous at the same
Yeah,
time.
sure.
Well, and that's
Your information's easy to find.
It is.
I could find anybody's phone number if I really wanted to.
Exactly.
It's not hard.
It's not, and I think for her, she was just appreciative because she could run through it quickly. I could
Yeah.
say yes and get me out there. And since then, I go on a pretty regular basis. I feel very fortunate that they want to use me for different things. And Southern Living Magazine just named me one of the most influential women in barbecue.
Love it.
That doesn't hurt. So there's just those things. And again, that's when one thing led to the next thing that led to the next thing. And so as we, to kind of come back to that question you had, is how do we tell people that we have a new product if they're not my customer? The only way I know to do that is to continue to be on TV,
Yeah, sure.
to be on the Food Network, to be, so that they come and try to find us, and then they see it. Because that's the only way. So every now and then I'll get an HSN customer that will contact us and say, I bought your sauce on there. Do you have it in a gallon? Or can I get
That's a question.
Can I
I'd
get a
ask.
pallet? Right? Like,
Maybe not a pallet.
Yeah.
And speaking of which, it's
Yeah.
sandwich time. now.
Sandwich, yeah.
So now I've got a barbecue beef sandwich on a bun, and I
Yeah.
love. Okay, by the way, thank you for making this just like a simple hamburger bun, because
it's
that's
not
the
my
way it's
first
supposed to
rodeo.
be. So I'm gonna dip this in some sauce, and then you also have some. Should I go
Yeah.
with the spices?
Sure.
Okay, we're going all in here.
You are going all in for a taste
So-
explosion right there. So this is just a vessel to help you understand how we like to put flavors together.
Mm.
You okay with that?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I love a good barbecue beef sandwich.
Right?
It's like really kind of like where it starts.
Well, like you go to like a taco place and have you ever just done a taco sandwich where they do like the taco meat on a bun and
Yeah.
it's amazing.
Maybe not on a bun, but almost like the little tiny tortillas.
Yeah.
Like a taco truck
Yeah.
really should have.
Yeah. So there's nothing wrong with just a little barbecue sandwich.
When I go to Vegas, there's a taco truck that
Uh-huh.
is in Chinatown of all places. And don't ask me how I found this, because a friend of mine took me there, I promise. But it is in the parking lot of a place that sells rims and a strip club. And it's only open late at night. And
Oh,
I
my
don't
word.
go to the other places,
Mm-mm.
but the tacos there are literally like world class. Like I've
Yes.
gone, and it's like the most lowbrow thing that you'll find. But the tacos is just like good, authentic street food.
And that's what it is.
Yeah.
It's the simplicity of how those flavors come together. And so
Yeah.
you want to know what our business is. It's marketing.
Right.
It's flavor development. It's understanding how and where and what the consumer might be interested in. And then it's going, is it going to work? And then if it doesn't, we pivot and we try to find. So a prime example of that is we did whole pork butts for the HSN. And while we had a great response and we had people who
But
put
by
it
the
on
way,
auto
you,
ship.
you said pork butt.
Pork butt, big old pork butt. But the reality of someone having to take the time to thaw it out and then take 6 hours to reheat it was such a commitment for our clients and customers that we realized, no, we just need to go single, quick 1 pound bags and be done with it.
Now, by the way, and I'll point this out again, like I'll say, and when I say like barbecue neutral, there was a ton of flavor in there,
Right.
but it didn't overwhelm me in one way or the other.
Right.
So now, is that intentional?
It is.
Is that just to apply to a larger audience?
It is.
Because here's the thing, I might like other types,
Yes.
but that would be good. I'd be
Yes.
good with that. And my wife's a lot pickier about what she eats, so she won't like certain things,
Yeah.
and she would like to be in that middle.
Balanced, good, solid, high quality products is where a remarkable product. So for a restaurant that wants a menu item that is so good and satisfying, but they don't have to do everything. We're going to do it for them. That's what we want. We want a barbecue sauce that your kids want to dredge their French fries and chicken nuggets
Yeah.
through, because that's consumable, and then you buy more.
There is
right?
such thing, I have breakfast ribs.
That sounds delicious.
It's a real thing.
I love
Yeah,
it.
that's why I always buy extra stuff.
I love it.
My wife always thinks it's funny because, like, I literally, like, I can inhale barbecue, and I'll just, like, stand by the trash can in the kitchen. I'll, like, pull the little jar out, and
Oh
I'll just
my.
sit there and be eating.
I got a visual.
I'll just be eating, no plates. I'm just pulling it right off the tray. And she's like, do you want to sit down at the table? I'm like, no.
Yeah.
No,
Y-
I really don't.
Well,
I'm good right here. Thanks.
We're dealing with with customers that think salt is hot, right? And spicy.
Yeah, this wasn't salty, though.
But that's the thing,
Yeah.
is that we are really, and it's not that we're dumbing it down. It's that we are intentionally making it balanced, because we don't want you to go, what the heck is that? Like with that brisket, the reason you were curious about the flavor is I guarantee the richness of a Wagyu beef,
Yeah.
as opposed to just a regular prime or, choice brisket that you're used to.
So we can, and for those of you listening, once again, go to BURNT fingerbarbecue.com.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what we tried. So if anyone all right, so here's the thing. I'll be honest with you, Megan, and I thought about this before you came in. If I didn't like the barbecue, I was going to point it. I would have said this isn't for me.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm
we
cool with that.
we mentioned the KC Soda Company came in here, and Lucas brought like half a dozen things, and Matt and I, we tried them. We did a bit of a contest. We
Yeah.
narrowed it down to one, but there were some of them I was just like, I don't like this.
Yeah.
Like the celery flavor. I just don't like that. Did not a good flavor for me. Matt
Yeah.
liked it,
Yeah.
but it's different. So you have different flavors. So, okay, so let's go through this. So we tried the brisket.
Yes.
And you can buy that.
So that
And like, how do you buy that?
okay, so that is not something that you can buy at this
Okay.
time.
Okay.
That is competition. That is what we turn in and win awards with. We are working to try to get brisket for the HSN audience.
Why is that a challenge?
Price of beef and a consumer that doesn't necessarily understand everything that goes into smoking a brisket for a really long time and the labor that goes into it, but they're willing to buy a steak very high priced because they get it. It's the education.
I just ate more of the brisket. It is really good.
Yeah. And so
Okay,
our
so-
goal is to be able to get brisket into the hands of consumers within the next year.
So brisket's a barbecue staple, but at the same time, it's kind of like, I don't want to say generic,
No,
but it's
you
like,
can
I
do
mean, everyone, like
You can do it.
brisket's kind of the main thing.
Yeah.
Like, all right. I mean, and I think if you're going to ship something or do different things, like you might be a little more adventurous, like
Yes,
the bacon
the
log.
bacon log, exactly.
Oh, man, I
Yep.
love that thing.
So-
that bacon log's my best friend
So
right
this
now.
you can get.
And I'm going to eat my
And
best friend later.
McGonagall's here in town has it
Mhm.
in their freezer, so you can get one anytime you need it.
Okay, so the sausage.
Yes.
Now, can we buy that?
Okay. So yes, the goal is that we will be selling it online.
Are you
Um,
using my show to announce your new
No,
product line?
yeah, let's talk about
And that's
that.
fine.
That's
That's
fantastic.
fine. It's
So by the time this thing airs, yes, you'll be able to get that sausage online
Okay.
shipped to you. However, here's the deal. With that particular consumable product, we are looking to partner with restaurants, any bars and locations that want to buy it food service.
okay.
So request it, ask for it.
Yeah.
Follow our social media.
It's really good.
Thank you.
Yeah, I could see that being served a number of different ways, even
Yes.
like sliced and like almost re-grilled
Yes.
in some ways. Okay, so
Yes.
that's good.
So that's good.
Now let's talk about the sauce.
Yes.
Now I know you sell the sauce.
Yes. Yes. Sauce is mass distribution, highest level.
Right.
So online, you can go to the local stores. Any like Kansas City Grilling Company is one of the local stores, but any of the real barbecue stores in Kansas City.
How about the people outside KC?
So your Ace Hardware, if they are not carrying it on their shelf, you request it and they will get it in because it's in their system. Bass Pro and Cabela's are selling it. So if you've got one of those locations, it's on their shelf in their general store.
If you can find them in their 1 million square miles of
exactly,
store, those
exact-
places are massive.
They are messy. Go to the what is that called? I just said it, the general store. It's in the general store.
Okay.
And so that's where you can get it from a mass distribution. Every once in a while we'll pick up, a World Market or somebody like that.
Barbecue sauce
but-
and spices are a great gift.
They're great
They're
gifts.
great gifts for dad. They're great gifts for uncles.
Yes.
I think that they're also really cool, like dude gifts
Yes.
for even for employees or
Yep.
clients.
I have a bank that buys it, and that's what they give out during football season.
So look, a lot of you listening have a business and you have clients. Don't send generic bullshit.
Yeah.
Do something that matters. That, especially for people that you want to show their appreciation.
Yes.
The average client at Full Scale spends $18,000 a month.
Wow.
That's why we do things like we have suites at the local venues and
Yes.
stuff like that, because we appreciate it, but make it a memorable experience. You can't forget that.
No.
I mean, if I took you to see the Backstreet Boys,
Oh.
Megan, you would remember me forever,
Ever.
even if you don't like them. And
The people in the room, I'm sure, would be.
I was
proud.
out of town for that. I let my
Ah.
wife take all of our. Yeah, they had a great time. But no, do something that's memorable. One of the
Yeah.
things that I thought was really cool and barbecue is a good way to do that. And so if you do business with a whole company, get together with a company like Megan's or somewhere and send them a meal.
Yeah.
Send them a meal because it's shocking how much more people will appreciate that
Yeah.
than even something like a gift card.
Well, and we've
or
got a
whatever,
fun story too. So
Yeah.
so you can say, oh, this was the girl that won Chopped, right?
Sure.
Here's her ribs. So ribs, pulled chicken, pulled pork, and we've got these great drumsticks that we sell. Those are typically what you're going to find on the Home Shopping Network. I kind of mentioned that sometimes we sell things on our own personal website. That is a touchy place because
Well,
it
they
just
don't, so
has
they
to
don't
be
want you
the
to
value.
compete. Yeah,
They don't want
yeah,
you competing,
yeah,
and I
yeah.
don't. And so, to me, I will say this: I would rather sit back and collect nickels
You can
at a
find
much
it.
bigger audience than
Use
try to
Google
chase those dollars.
as you're Googling
Yes.
yourself.
Yes.
I'm assuming your website may direct people to
Yes.
some of these things too.
We
Maybe?
don't. We
Maybe?
don't.
Okay.
Because they're not my customer,
I see. That's true.
right?
Well, let's and you know what? I want to talk about something because I don't want to forget and like get so far into the time here, and I'm extending our length here because first off, I didn't realize how fancy you were with all these badges that you've collected. I want to talk about that for a second because
Yeah.
I think that businesses and people in general, like you are your own brand.
Mhm.
Like I could sell Full Scale, I could quit doing the Startup Hustle podcast, I could quit doing a lot of things. I'm still Matt
You are
DeCoursey.
Matt.
And that matters. Like if I wanted to just give up all this entrepreneur shit and like go get a real job.
Did you call it entrepreneurship?
Yeah.
I love it.
I mean, because it's true. Like really, like people, what do you do? I'm just one of my mentors. You're like, tell me about yourself. You'd be like, I'm just a guy looking for something to do.
Yeah.
I mean, we do chase all different kinds of stuff and do
Mhm.
different things. It really is just entrepreneurship, you know. And
Mhm.
like but that brand matters, and it's going to help your business overall when people feel that you're credible and trustable, and that has a lot to do with like so at Full Scale, our company, the tech services company Matt and I own, we just did it. We waited 200 episodes to do one about our own business, but then we let that be episode 200. We grew to 180 employees in 18 months.
Wow.
But so much of that has to do with being trustable and,
Yep.
and also being open. Like you can, if you listen to the podcast, you learn a lot about us in
Yeah.
general. And you know,
Transparent.
and here's the thing too. It's like it's really kind of an open book kind of world.
Mhm.
Like you're not going to fake it for too long.
No.
And you'll get called out eventually. So
will.
just be yourself. And some people will like it, and some
Yes.
people will not.
Yeah.
Some people don't like the fact that this show's conversational.
Huh.
They would prefer that we just never talk. I mean, some people would, and then some, but
Okay.
overwhelmingly, people love it
Yeah.
because they get to know you.
Yeah.
We sat down, and I've got like 5 notes here,
Oh.
and I didn't, you know, and some of that, but that conversation's what brings out that,
Yeah.
you know. So I think that good content and stuff, getting yourself out there is often unscripted.
Yes.
Because you know, take the canned nature away from it, and it's good. But what I want to get you to make some comments about is, so I use this term, and it's funny. I call it fact shaping.
Yes.
And there's any number of facts can be presented in infinite amount of ways, which means that there are ways that are really great
Yeah.
to shape these facts. I'm not talking about lying or
Yeah.
bullshitting or fake news, like
Yeah.
shaping your facts. And like, okay, so Megan, you are the chopped champion.
Yes.
That has also been featured on the Home Shopping Network, the New
Yes.
York Times, the Today Show, all
Yes.
this kind of stuff. That's fact shaping.
Yes.
And these are all facts. But if you aren't shaping that around your persona, so now here's the thing: is I led with that. If I'm interested in what you do,
Yeah.
I got your attention.
Yeah.
And the thing is I'm all it's good to be humble, but if when promoting yourself, you can't
Yeah.
be afraid to tell people why you're awesome.
Yeah.
You just don't need to be a jerk about it.
And there's a fine line.
And that's another thing too, is you will run. I run into that too. Like
Yeah.
I'm very confident, and sometimes largely people that aren't, will
Yeah.
will perceive that as arrogance.
Yeah. Well,
And you got to be careful with that too. Like I struggle with that, and it's always been something. I have some abrasive parts of me, but it's just my personality
I was
style.
gonna say it works.
I'm
for
actually
you.
a really nice, like approachable, like person,
Fantastic.
but some of it's tough though, because
Yeah.
you know, like I mean, sometimes you're like in passing, and someone's
Yeah.
like trying to flag you down or wave you, and you got to just be careful with that too. But
My favorite is the person that's talking to me, looking across the room for who's better to talk to. That's my favorite guy.
that's how I describe any trip to Los Angeles.
Oh,
Anytime
yes.
you go somewhere, that
They're always
everyone's
looking
looking
for
around to
what's-
see who's more important
Yeah.
than you are, or
Yeah,
they
I
are.
love that guy.
So let's talk about now. I'd like to get your input because you've
Yeah.
clearly done a lot to get out there. By the way, it's a lot of work.
It's so much work.
It really is.
But it's the long game. It
Yeah.
really is the long game. And if you're not someone who can
But
understand
what are some
that,
tips for someone that's like,
Yeah.
because you know, it's easy for you at this point to be like, hey, this has happened, but at
Yeah.
some point you're like, how the fuck do
Yeah.
I get on Chopped
Yeah.
or whatever? And
yeah,
and
So-
by the way, that activity breeds more of that
it does.
activity. But
It does. And I can tell you exactly the moment I had a conversation with someone that I admire, And I let her know that I was ready to start taking a bigger role in our barbecue business and that I was poised to unleash the public relations.
Yep.
That was, and she was the one who had the connection to the casting director. And she flat out told me, I want you to talk to this casting director because I really think this could be good. And I was like, no, my husband is the head pitmaster. And she said, no.
Is this personality like yours?
No.
Okay.
No. He's the steak.
Because you and I share the same personality, so we're driven.
Yeah.
You might be a little more on the social side than I am. But,
I like to say he's the steak and I'm the sizzle.
Okay, sure.
If that's fair. He understands.
Matt Watson and I are like that in some regards. Matt and I have different personality
Yeah.
styles, but we both have expertise in things
Absolute
that are credible.
expertise,
Yeah.
and it's still a beautiful steak. It's just.
It's actually a better steak.
It is.
It's a steak with some sides.
Yeah. Well, and it's
And a frothy
he,
beer.
He gets the details and the understanding of proteins and the way that they work and flavor complexes and systems.
That's kind of like Matt. I tell
right?
people I write checks,
Systems.
he writes code.
Exactly.
But both are important to the process.
Very
Yeah.
important. And so we work very, very well together. But
You just described what is
The
what
it?
what Matt and I always. I mean, you basically just described our fit for a good co-founder relationship. Find people, and it just happened to be. And by the way, a lot of people can't work with husband and wife.
No.
My wife and I worked together for like 7 years. We were really good at it.
Yeah.
Some people can't make it
Yeah.
like a day.
Nope.
So congrats on that.
Thank you.
But whether that was your husband or someone else, you found someone else that has a level of interest in. I bet you're not interested in that stuff as much as he is
No.
either. Yeah.
No. I mean, I can make it, and I've absorbed.
But partner with people that want to do the stuff you don't want to
Yes.
do, and that are great at the things that you're not great, or at least the things you don't want to be great at
And
a lot.
someone said the other day, we're a kite and a string. He's the string,
Yeah.
I'm the kite. And I thought, okay, that also makes sense.
Yeah, sure.
He's holding me down, telling me, and I'm saying, but it's pretty and it's gorgeous up here, and let's do those things. And so it all works together. You telling somebody, it's not what you know or who you know, it's who knows you. That's what I always say. It's who knows you. Who in the industry knows you, knows what you can do, and how to get a hold of you so that when those opportunities come available, you're top of mind for them. And
So
that's
let's
the long
let's go
game.
super basic here.
Yeah.
If someone, by the way, this does not just apply to like food stuff.
No, this is anybody.
So give a couple tips for a couple ways you can self-generate some hype or get out there. I'll share a couple after you do.
Yeah. So self-hype. Oh, see that. Let me see.
Well, any of the stuff
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be self-hype.
okay,
like
I'll
you've
give
been on
you-
these shows.
Yeah.
You've been, like
I'll give you a prime example.
they don't all just line up and
No,
ask.
here's the deal. So when I got the call, I'll give the prime example. When I got the call to be photographed for a story that was going to be appearing in the Southern Living magazine for the most prominent women basically in barbecue. After we set up the interview and we set up the photo shoot, I asked the people who were behind the scenes, I said, who else do you work with? Are you in a conglomerate? They're like, yeah, we're Meredith Corporation. So we have all these other magazines that we work with. And I said, okay, well, I was talking with the photographer, and he said, this is really fantastic. You've done a great job. You should really look at coming down to our Birmingham headquarters and doing a chef visit. And so I asked her, I said, how do I do a chef visit? What is this? And she's like, oh, let's get it all set up. And next thing I know, I'm driving to Birmingham, and I'm doing myrecipes.com. I'm doing something with some more things with Southern Living magazine. It was a video series with them called BBQ. So I did 3 different photo shoots and video shoots with 2 other properties, 100% because I asked that follow-up question. So had I not said, how do I do a chef's visit? Now, the reality of that is it's my own dime. I had to drive down there and do that. But now you can find several different videos on several different platforms.
Yeah, but
of
with
me.
that exposure was
It's
probably
huge.
worth way more than
It is.
the gas and the
Bingo.
time. Yeah.
Well, and then
But at the same time, I do have
Yeah.
a rule to not pay to play. Like
Yes.
and now some people don't care about that. That's just kind of my background in the music industry.
Yes.
That's a rule. Like you don't ever pay to play.
Yes.
Now, and maybe at the Super Bowl.
Yes.
Okay, I could get it on that. But,
Yeah.
But when I say pay to play, like you're gonna get and by the way, you kind of stole my first tip, but
Oh.
I'm going to add to it. So
Yeah.
you mentioned once you're already there.
Yeah.
Okay, let's say you haven't even been there, but you know someone. Okay, so you know Megan.
Yeah.
If you want to get noticed, or maybe it's hard to introduce yourself to
Right.
journalism.
Right.
Like it doesn't
Right.
it doesn't get absorbed as well. But like if Megan and I had known each other for a while and we had a good relationship, I would say, Megan, would you mind sending 2 emails
Yeah.
to someone that writes articles here
Yeah.
or there, someone that you know, maybe someone you've been
Yeah.
on, and I would even write it out for you.
Mhm.
So I wasn't even going to make you do work.
Yeah.
And, you know, it could be something simple. It'd be like, hey, you know, first off, thanks again for publishing that article about me. There's someone I wanted to put on your radar.
Yes.
And just give like a couple things. I don't mean like a 10,000 word bio, a couple things. And, you know, this person's doing some significant stuff. And
Yes.
if
Validate them.
If you think this is
Edify.
if you think this is within your scope or
Yep.
whatever, or newsworthy, then
Yeah.
do something with it. If not, I hope you're well.
Yeah. And
And that will be responded to well.
it is. And as long as you frame it in on your radar.
Yeah.
So when the article came out for Southern Living, I sent it to some of my food producers that I had worked with on various things for different programming. And I said, as a heads up, I know you're always looking for great female talent. Take a look at these ladies. If you want me to make a connection to any of them, please do, because now guess what I am? I'm a resource to them.
Right. And that's
I'm not just talent, I'm a resource.
And I, you know, so all right, so I get 5 emails a day.
Mhm.
Literally 5 on average. I get 150 to 200 a month. That's some like spammy shit. They're like, yeah, we listen to podcast. We would like to suggest, and you can just tell it's like really like robotic
Yes.
and lame, and I ignore them.
Yeah.
Now on the flip side, we've had some really interesting people come in, and I get a lot of what we just
Right.
described. Hey, I mean, I got them yesterday, like completely unsolicited, but I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Because these are people that have, I mean, they're coming from people that I find credible,
Yep.
that have usually been on the podcast, and they're like, hey, you know, they had fun, and they're like, I think there's someone you might want to talk to. And
Yeah.
I'm like, cool, let's do it.
Yeah.
And that's so much easier. And like that success rate on an invite is like 90 to 100%.
Yeah. It's warm and cozy.
The other kind I almost ignore all
Delete.
the time. Well, not always, but I mean, some of
Yeah.
it too is like we don't do phone interviews.
Yeah. Oh, that's
So,
interesting. Yeah.
So it's you know we
But
want
own
people
that.
that are around here. Well, no, we do.
Yeah.
We do, and now we've taken this to San Francisco. We've done some different stuff like that, and
Super
next
smart.
year, here you go, little teaser. We will be taking the podcast on the road. We are going to actually feature cities and markets at certain points next year because for no other reason than there are some really cool startup scenes.
Yes.
Like we're going to go to Denver.
Uh-huh.
People in Denver. We're going to go to Austin. Try some different places like that are close.
Yeah.
That are close, and we just want to check out what other people are doing. So,
Well,
okay,
I've got a couple people to point your way. So,
boom, there you go. Okay, so
can I give another one?
I was going to ask you to give another one.
Okay, so another one would be, we're talking about, you know, for us, classes and
Mhm.
use of.
I meant to ask you that earlier
Yes,
because
we
I would
do.
think you could monetize you.
We do.
Yeah,
We
a little
do.
bit.
It's not scalable, so it's usually used more for.
That's not totally true.
Well,
though. There's ways
it's
to
video.
deliver.
You could video. There's
Yeah.
no doubt. But in person, hands-on type of classes. So there's an insane amount of opportunity if I had enough hours in the day. So we got to find the right fit at the right season of our life to make those things happen. And just knowing that is very important. But leveraging the relationships that I have with my sponsors and with as a brand ambassador for different companies. So if I'm going to have a class, there's a couple different meat people that I call and I say, hey, we're having a class. And then loads of meat shows up
Yep.
because they want to know.
You're crowdsourcing it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Kind of like I did with my lunch today by having
Well,
you
a
in
little
here.
extra. And it's
Yeah.
a perk. I wanted a consistent look. I knew that I was going to be on a couple of different shows, and I wanted a consistent look. So I reached out to Duluth Trading Company, and I said, hey, you want to play? You want to put me in some of your clothes? And
Yep.
an insane amount of products showed up at my doorstep. And
Can I key on the fact that you actually asked though?
Well,
like, I mean, just ask people.
yes,
Like, what's
ask.
the worst that's going to happen?
ask. And then the other, you know, when I'm using a product, I don't necessarily, I'll talk about it. I don't need to be paid to do it. But when you want to do something specific, mama's got to get paid, right?
Yeah,
So,
well, that's the point.
yeah, it is. But I think being able to use those relationships to their benefit and ask them, and then don't give them any reason to think that you didn't follow through. Be really let them know how you used it will then open up other doors, because what happens is then their PR people leave and go to another company, and then all of a sudden they're reaching out to you saying, hey, we're at this new thing and we thought of you.
You need to keep in mind too, like I say, just ask. And a couple of the books, all the books that I've written are loaded with interviews with well-known people, whether they're rock stars or personalities or different folks. And check out the books. But here's the thing: people ask me a lot. They're like, "Do you have a hard time finding guests?" No, not even close. I mean, it's so easy. Why?
Yeah.
People like to come talk about themselves, man. It's just simple. Like,
you make it easy.
And plus, we do make it easy.
You make it easy.
Like, and that was what I was gonna. That's the next thing is if you're gonna ask for someone to support you, make it easy for them. Like, and that's the thing too. And everyone's like, oh yeah, I do the coffee invite. Fuck your coffee invite, man. I don't want it. I don't want to like take 20 minutes and drive across town and try to find you and do whatever. Like, if you're asking for something from me, you need to deliver. And that's like the thing. And it's and so if you want someone to, like I mentioned, if I want you to give me an intro, I'm going to type it out for you. I'm not going to say, hey, say this. I send a bulleted list. Do whatever. And by the way, your success rate with that will be remarkable. So all 3 of my books have become bestsellers on the day that they launched, and I'm going to tell you how. I literally pride myself on not being a favor asker. So when I actually do need or want something, I make it simple. But that said, on the days when my books have come out, I do exactly what I just described. I write out. I literally write out a couple things. The first book, I learned that it took me about an hour to figure this out because no one was actually responding. Like, hey, could you say something about my book? And they're like what? So no, I just tell them, do you mind posting this on your social media? Hey, my friend Matt just published a book. This looks cool. If you're interested in it, here's the link. And you give them an image to post. Give them a couple make it fit, make it look good, do something, and give them what they need to do to just like literally copy and paste. And you will find that you get an overwhelming amount of support. And literally that alone. In those first couple days of a book coming out, you get enough people. Like if 200 people that have 500 friends on Facebook do that, that's a shitload of impressions. So, but the thing is and going back to, you got to ask. You got to ask. I've literally made a living in life just asking.
But I think it's even, you've got to ask in a way that gives them an opportunity to see the bigger picture. You can't just say, you want to give me some free stuff? It's no, I'm doing these 3 things.
Fact shaping, Megan.
I'm doing these 3
Duluth Trading
things.
Company, I'm going to be on a big show. I think that there's a reasonable opportunity for you to gain some exposure if you would be willing to send me something to wear. I think this could be a good. And here's the thing: they gave you free clothes. Did they pay you?
No.
Not yet.
Not yet.
But okay.
That's the long
but
game.
you got it started.
That's the
you got
long
it started,
game.
and that's influencer marketing 101.
But the thing for us is, if I was going to spend money anyway in that category, I'll take some product. I will. But if you're asking me to do something or endorse something, or to endorse something that then prevents me from taking another product in that category, I have to be paid.
Well, sure.
Like, there's no question about it.
But they're going to see you on that show, and they're going to post a picture, and they're going to be. I mean, that's just good for your brand. Okay, because we
way over, aren't we?
Well, that's fine. We talk until we run out of shit to talk about, and as long as it's interesting and useful and has additional barbecue samples,
of course,
I could go for a while. So anyway, we are going to end this episode here in a minute, but we always do our founders freestyle. Now, before that, you can check out what we were doing here on the Startup Hustle YouTube channel. You can see me eating barbecue and going, We're on Instagram at Startup Hustle Podcast. Check out what we do at fullscale.io. And that said, you also should go to Burnt Finger, that's BRNT, fingerbbq.com, or on the gram at Burnt Finger BBQ. So as we finish, and round out, we do the Founders Freestyle,
Okay.
which you are going to be awesome at. And I'm just going to kind of give you a minute to,
Okay.
you can say whatever you want.
Okay.
Sometimes maybe our ADD left things unresolved, or you want
Mhm.
to pitch the business, or you want to give people advice, or
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you want to recite the Gettysburg Address. It's really up to you. It's your time.
I
So
love it.
there you
Yeah.
go.
My advice is self-care. Take care of yourself. Do the things you have to do, but be prepared for the downtimes. Sometimes I will go out and I'll hustle, and then the next day I just take a nap and I do a little me time because it is really lonely. But yet it is full of people. It is a strange position to be in when you're in the entrepreneur world. And especially with barbecue, I can spend hours and hours waiting for a pork butt to be done. I said pork butt again.
Mhm.
For it to be
Thank
done.
you for pointing that out.
You're
Yeah.
welcome. But in the meantime, I'm following and I'm looking and I'm searching not just my industry, but other parallel industries that are out there. I want to see what they're doing and what they're making waves. And so I'm not just following the type of people that I'm in business with because I want to learn from them. I want to know what they're doing and what's successful for them. And I'm constantly trying to find the next brand that I appreciate to reach out to them to say, is there an opportunity for us to work together? Sometimes I get immediate responses. Sometimes I never get anything. We're getting ready to build out our dream kitchen and carriage house studio. And so I've been reaching out to what I would consider to be kind of the obvious, the cabinet makers, the refrigeration, the whatever kind of partners that we would want to work with to be a part of that project. And I've had really fun success because we have a story to tell. We have so much information out there about, like you said, being on the Today Show, being on Food Network, that they don't have to question what it is that we do and if we're out there making any waves. And so while I'm taking a little bit of downtime maybe from actually working on the business, I'm always looking for who out there can I help, who out there might be willing to partner with us, and I'm asking them. That's what I'm doing when I'm kind of in a down mode, which probably still sounds like work, but it's very enjoyable to me.
Yeah, can I, is it mine? Do I get the mic? Here we go. Get ready. No, I'm not going to rap. I could probably rap about barbecue.
Yeah.
I'm very well stated. I think that there's a couple things you said during the episode. You mentioned earlier about wanting to have time around your kids, and entrepreneur was like, don't become an entrepreneur because you think you're going to have more time.
No.
So first off, that's some advice that I'll just give.
Yeah.
Now with that, Megan, I want to really commend you and say I'm very impressed with
Thank you.
all that you've done. You're not afraid to do the work. Success demands payment in advance. None of this stuff is automatic. You look at something like barbecue. Now, you mentioned these championships. I'm going to give you some context. These things are in I think the last one was inside the infield of a NASCAR track.
Yeah.
That's how many people go to this thing. It's
Yeah.
so you look at all these different people that are doing barbecue. A lot of them are hobbyists. A lot of them own restaurants, whatever. And now you got to find some ways to get yourself to stand out. And you did a very effective job with that.
Thank you.
And it happens one piece at a time.
Yeah.
And but the thing is to start somewhere.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people that are, quote, influencers for a lot of different reasons. Find what fits well with what you do. Last night I was at things you don't say often. I was at a photo shoot for a dog calendar with NFL players.
Nice.
And these are guys from the Chiefs that were there. And these guys are, everyone's wanting pictures and whatever. And I was talking to someone and I was like, man, I don't know how I do with that. And this was funny. Someone said, yeah, but you're famous. I'm like, not even close. So what do you mean? Every time I go somewhere with you, you know everyone. I'm like, because you see me at startup and entrepreneur events. I can go to the grocery store with no one wants a selfie or to talk to me other than the cashier. But the point with this is focus on where your crowd is and be centric around that. Now, barbecue, you obviously apply to a large scale of buyer, but with us, with startups and sometimes the podcast and different stuff this podcast was was easily the best thing we ever did for our overall brand. And you say, well, I can't get on the shows, whatever. You know what you can do? You can start a podcast.
Yeah.
It's free. You can literally, you have in your pocket right now everything you need to publish a podcast.
Yep.
Like, it might not be remarkably professional
Huh.
when you just use your phone, but you can get it started. And the world has made it really easy to get yourself all over the world.
Yep.
And for those of you that have listened to this show in 190 countries, thank you.
Wow.
Like, thank you. Like,
That's
I mean,
successful.
I can't even say we wonder who you folks are, and we really do have a huge level of appreciation that you continue to pay attention. And that's the key. Now, when we had 3 episodes, we didn't have 190 countries that had listened, but we kept doing it, and you just kind of keep grinding, and it's like playing with Legos. You just got to you snap another piece on. You snap another piece on. Sometimes you have to take the Legos apart and put them back together.
Yeah.
Then you snap more on. Really, the thing you're hoping with that approach is that you just don't step on any in the middle of the night.
Ouch.
I know, most painful thing. So
Yeah.
anyway, thank you for coming
You're
in. I
welcome.
love the barbecue. The
Thank
bacon.
you. You're going to do awesome
I'm probably
things.
just going to put that in my back pocket and walk around.
I
And people are
love
going to be
it.
like, is that a bacon log in your back pocket?
Why, yes, it
And
is.
I'll say, why? Yes, it is. See you all next time.